Alright, like you've seen from the title, it's time to start a big project. You are looking at the future Razor Adventures, I guess, hauling mobile, trailer, whatever you want to call it. It is time to upgrade. And I know what you're thinking, an old fifth wheel frame is not an upgrade. And you'd be right. We are going to turn this into a double-decker hauler. I guess by double-decker it means we're going to have one machine up there and one machine down here, and we're going to have a cabinet at the front of the bottom deck here. This is the start of a long project. We're going to have probably quite a few videos on this, so this is just going to be part one. Let me go over what I've done so far. We've got new tires. The bottom deck here is just about 17 feet long, so we're probably going to go 18 foot on the bottom deck. I've got one of the wheels and the hubs and all that pulled off. I'll show you that in a second. And I got new hub kits. The brakes are actually good. We've got electric brakes on both axles, and I tore it apart and everything seems pretty good. So we got new bearing kits. We're going to put seals and bearings and shackle springs. The first big project we got going on is we're going to flip the axles. If you'd have seen it hooked to the truck, maybe I'll post a picture here. When it was hooked to the truck, it was downhill quite a bit. So we're going to flip the axles, drop them down under the springs, which should give us extra height to level it up with the truck, and we are going to build a deck that goes on top of this frame. I'm going to reinforce the frame with the cabinet that we're putting in. We're going to put a cabinet here in the front end, and then we're going to build an 8 by 18 deck that's going to sit here, and then an 8 by 8 deck to sit up top. And Grandpa and Christopher are out here pulling the trailer apart for me. We are cutting U-bolts. Christopher's cleaning off a spindle. Show you where we're at the other side. I called ahead and said, hey Christopher, get to work on the trailer. Not knowing what to expect, this is what I come home to. This is the side I pulled apart the other day. We got this cut. It's dropped down, resting on the back axle, and we're gonna have this one done really quick here. So we're gonna get everything cleaned up and weld the new perches on, and we'll show you the next step. All right, it's free. Everything looks really good. We're going to clean the rust up here and here, and we can get our perches welded on and literally just throw it back on the trailer with the new bolt kits. Oh, I'll show you the new bolt kits. I'm going to get this trailer out of the way. We just opened it up today. We've got the new U-bolts, nuts, and plates. So this process is going to go a lot quicker than I thought. So, we'll be back in a second. We got her cleaned up. Christopher's got her all cleaned up. we're on the floor. We're going to go off of these squares for the brakes here. And we're going to call the garage floor level because this is probably the nicest garage floor I'll ever have. And we're going to throw the perches up here and get them all squared up and make sure they're level so they'll be level with this. And then tack them and get them welded on, and we'll be going back together.
All right, so we just finished welding, and now we're just, well, he's just painting it up, making it look nice.
Well, we're protecting it from rusting. Any bare metal you got to paint right away before you, because once we bolt these on the springs, we might not take it off. So let's stop all the rust we can.
That makes more sense.
That's why I'm the boss.
So we're protecting it from rusting. Let's see. Just got done welding.
All right, we got the back axle pulled off. All we did was just take an angle grinder to the U-bolts. Popped them off. Got Christopher over here cleaning up the brakes, the plates. They're actually cleaning up really well. He's doing a good job. We're using good old-fashioned $2.15 the gallon gasoline. Get everything cleaned up nice. I'll show you a couple of the finished ones here. There's a couple cleaned up ones ready to go. The advice of my trailer guy, we're going to use Pam cooking spray. It lubricates all the parts, it dries as a wax, and it has a rust-eating component, according to him. And he's one of those old-timers you just listen to because they know what they're talking about. I am in here right now taking off the last plate on the axle, and then we'll go through the whole perch welding process again. And we're going to start going back together here before the day's over. I'm excited. Christopher's working hard, everybody's working hard. Grandpa had to go, so it's just me and Christopher, but that's fine. We're still moving along. We'll catch up in a minute. Let's try out the new tripod idea here. So I want to go over the steps that we took to prep these brake drums, and then I'll kind of go over the new parts I just got today. Kind of excited. I should have enough to get everything done today. Pull the brake drums off after you take the nut and the washer and the front bearing and stuff all out. And this is what we get. We've got a bunch of old grease and a seal in here, and there's an inner bearing which is usually bigger than the outer bearing. So first things first, we're gonna clean out all the grease, and you're gonna see me go through a lot more paper towels today. I don't mind getting dirty and nasty, but the more we can avoid, the cleaner and better this process goes. So I had a comment on a video back when I did the rear wheel seal on the Razor, or rear axle seal. They wanted to see the seal actually come out. Okay, that's fine, I guess. There's two ways to do this. You can use a screwdriver. You can get in here, pry it up. You can put a hole. You can stab a hole in the metal of the seal here and peel it out. Or you can use one of these. It's an actual seal puller. I don't know. This is just an auto parts store one that I bought years ago. Alright, well, it's coming up there. So basically, it's like a rocking device. You just kind of pop it. Having a really hard time with this GoPro whole idea. I'm gonna find a better way to mount this. Hold on. Be a little crooked there. Okay, so I think I got our mounting problem figured out. So, like I said, it's just a prying tool. Seal pops right out. You could tell by the way everything was greasy in here and on these brakes that the rear seals had been leaking and that this just got packed full of grease. So we're going to pull this bearing out. And then we talked about it yesterday. I've got new bearing kits and everything. These bearings don't feel bad. But while we're in here, since this is a new trailer to us, we're just going to put new bearings in. The races are pressed in, and so far on all the drums, they've looked really good. So we got new races with the kits as well, but if they're not scratched or deformed or bad looking or whatever, then there's no sense of replacing them. That would just be a bigger hassle than we needed. Trying to keep the cost down on the trailer, obviously. If we counted all the man hours that are actually getting put into this, it wouldn't be super cost effective, but since I'm doing it all myself and with a little bit of help from Christopher and friends, it's definitely going to be a worthwhile project, I think. So I'm going to finish getting this cleaned out. You see, it's not really a difficult process. I don't see any big metal chunks or nothing like that. Just that old grease in there that we're going to get pushed out of there. And we'll put some new grease in the bearings and throw it together. Okay, so we're going to set that aside for a second and get to packing some bearings. For those who have never done it, basically what we're doing is we're putting grease. These are the new wheel bearings and these are the new seals. We're basically going to push grease inside these wheel bearings so they are prepped and ready to go. I don't know, I can't remember if I explained it or not, but these axles are not like the axles on my little red trailer. They don't have the grease channel that goes to the back and pushes to the front. These are just the old style spindles that you have to put your bearings on with grease in them already. So we're going to prep these bearings. We'll assemble the big one with the seal here in a second. Then this one, the little one, will go in the washer and the nut and then the cotter key on the outside after we get the brakes adjusted. But since it's raining outside, we're going to do all our prep work, and then hopefully the rain quits for a minute and we'll run outside and do some suspension work and get these put in. So there's a couple ways to do these. You can pack them by hand. You'll get a tub of grease, and I'll get finger deep in it here in a minute anyways. But you'll get your tub of grease. You will basically push the grease through these by hand, get everything all set up, and then put them in your drum. Or you can use one of these little handy dandy packers, which is exactly what this is called. It's a handy packer. It's made in the USA. I think I got it from just like a Napa or some auto parts store. So basically what it is your tub of grease with a deal inside that is a seal, and it forces the grease up through the middle, which in turn forces the grease through your bearing. So, take our bearing, center it down in there on the hole, put this guy in there, and we will apply some beef. I found that if I move it around a little bit, it helps push the grease up through. We're almost there. I got grease coming through the top. I'll give her a little bit more. There we go. Take her out. Now you can see, hopefully you can see, grease is pushed all the way through the bearings. Give everything a nice coat. And we're going to put grease inside before we place this in, but I'll set that down for a second. We'll do the same thing with the little one. Shouldn't take as long. Put the old beef to her. And voila. The grease all the way to the top. Bearing cages are full. And we are ready to install. So we'll leave this here. I'm always working with clean paper towels. Like I said before, you're going to see me go through a lot of those because dirt equals failure for these. And I'm sure there's an acceptable amount. It might handle a little bit here and there, but for the most part, we do our absolute best. Keep bearings clean so they last longer. So in the middle of a trip somewhere between here and Tennessee or here and hopefully next year maybe Utah, we don't have critical failures because I don't know a whole lot of people that carry a lot of extra spare wheel bearings and hubs and all that stuff in their trailer. I got a lot of plans for this one, so we will have some spare parts, but the idea is you don't want to ever have to use it. So let's just jump right into the hub or brake drum. Okay, so we are going to use a little bit. Actually, let's move these out of the way. Put these off to the side and cover them up. Use that in a second. Don't want to get any dirt or nothing in our grease. We're going to get messy here for a second. We're going to take our brake drum. We cleaned out the inside. I think I showed you that, talked about that. We're going to take some brake clean. You can use gasoline too. I mean, like ounce for ounce. Gasoline's probably cheaper, but I like this because it's in a spray can. Ideally, you're not going to spray it right into the inside or down to where the bearings go. That would be silly. If you do get a little bit in there, obviously we're going to wipe it out again just to make sure. It's always going to be a little overspray. That's good. And we just take our brake clean we got in here. We're going to wipe down the braking surface. These are a touch more expensive than the brakes, so if you don't have to replace these, you don't want to. And this one is in really good shape, so there's no reason for this to have to see the junkyard just yet. I'd say we get at least 2 more brake changes out of it at the minimum. Just want to make sure there's no grease or nothing left from the leaky wheel bearing or leaky seal. It was in there before. Get it nice and cleaned out. Yeah, it's pitted a little bit. Yeah, it doesn't look perfect, but at the end of the day, these are trailer brakes. Really hope this rain quits. Just gives me about an hour to go out there and install this stuff. We'll get Christopher out here. He's inside doing his homework. So that is pretty good. Nice clean surface. It's not jagged or nothing like that. If it was really gouged out and nasty, we'd have to replace it. But this is relatively smooth enough. It's not machined obviously, but it's really good shape. So we get back into our tub of grease here. This is where it gets messy. You don't have a choice, but we'll prep some paper towels here. I go through a lot of paper towels. Have I said that before? Oh, we're gonna get just finger deep in here. We're not gonna fill this, but there's a space in between where the bearings ride, and I don't want that to be dry. I want grease in here. I want it to be able to move around. You obviously got to leave room for expansion and stuff like that. So you're not going to pack it full, otherwise it'll just either put too much pressure on the cap or it'll blow out the seal. But like I said, we're going to just kind of mixing this around, getting it spread out in there. We'll clear the top lip off before we put the seal on. But we'll drop this bearing in here now. This is our larger bearing. Fits right down in there in that upper race. It's seated nice. Clean up a little bit here. It's like the happy medium. You don't want too much grease, but you gotta have enough to keep everything. Oops, sorry. Keep everything from burning up on you. So we'll put a little bit more on top of this bearing here, just to get the top covered real good. Want to leave anything to chance. All right, I'm going to take our new seal, set it down in there. Our installation chunk O pipe. Called this a man hammer. Christopher corrected me. This is what we call our Thor hammer. And we're going to tap this. I'm probably going to knock the camera down. Tap this in place evenly. Now you hear that? I don't know if you can hear that sound. It went from just a tapping to a solid metal sound, and you can see now the bearing is recessed. I tapped all the way around the outside, solid all the way around the outside, and now here you see that lip right there. The bearing is equally recessed in there, and there isn't a big grease mess on the outside. So now this is ready to go throw on, and once it's on, we'll adjust the brakes out, and I'll go over that. We'll throw it on there. You put a little bearing in, the washer. We're going to reuse the washers and the nuts, obviously, but we'll put the little bearing in first, and the washer, and the nut. We'll tighten it down. The tightening procedure, we'll just kind of skip that over. It's just like with the other trailer. You know, you want to make it nice and tight. You don't want to make it so tight you restrict the movement. It will feel stiff with a bunch of grease. You just need to get the grease worked around in there. So by no means do you want it to stop or not be able to move it. That is way too tight, and you will burn up your bearing cages and, you know, grenade your axle. But you don't want it too loose where it tips back and forth and they wear out on one edge or the other, and that will also destroy your axle. So obviously, if you've never done this before, you either have somebody help you or take it to a professional. I mean, trial and error is fun, I guess, but when these go, you don't want to be driving next to them or behind them. You can really hurt somebody. So like I said, this is not your instructional video. This is just showing you what I do, and you just kind of make your own adult decisions from there. So I'm going to prep one more just like this, and then we will see where we're at as far as the rain and see what we can do next. I'll show you. Okay, so it's the next day. We did get rained out for the rest of the day. We got the box open with our new brakes on, making sure everything's going to fit right. Looks pretty good. We're going to wipe that spindle off, make sure that's clean and good to go. Everything's spinning the right direction. We should be ready. Don't worry about the wires in the front. That was my mistake. I put the axle in backwards. We are not going to reuse those wires anyways. We're going to clip them off, and we're going to put a little caulk in that little silicone, plug that hole up. We're going to run new wires up along the frame here for the brakes. As nice as that axle tube wiring is, as convenient as it is, I did a lot of welding right there, and I'm not going to take a chance that we might have melted the coatings. I realized I forgot to explain something. We bought new backing plates with the brake assemblies on them because while we were cleaning one, the wires broke off the back of one of the magnets. So we decided to replace the brakes on the front axle and put brand new and just go from there. Okay, oh, you are, alright, thank you. So we got our brakes bolted up tight. We're going to start assembly here. First thing we're going to do is adjust the brakes out. Now for those of you who haven't done drum brakes, the adjuster is right here, and you use that to expand and contract the brakes, the brake shoes. Grab me a piece of paper towel. Let's get this wiped off. And we don't want them rubbing up against the drum, but you want them close enough to where it doesn't have to work real hard to get them to contact the drum. So I will go over that here in a second. So I went ahead and turned the adjuster out a few turns just to get it close here. I found that they're always a little bit loose the very first time, and since we're putting this inside and we're going to mess with our grease, I want to get it as close to right the first time as we can.
Oh, that's really tight.
Yeah, that's too tight.
So after, how long was that? Like 4 minutes of prying and pulling. We're adjusting it smaller or lower, pulling them inwards. Let's see if that Is that still too tight? That looks like it's still too tight.
Well, once you get it up here, sometimes it'll ride a little different. Because right now it's kind of sitting cockeyed because we don't have the other bearing in it. So I think we are darn close. Take our little bearing, try and direct this grease back inside. Take a washer. Remember how we put a lot of grease in there? That's going to come out. Not all of it, but that's fine. Perfect. That's exactly where I want to be. Let's see, where's our hole at? Our hole's right there. So, let's tighten it up here to the first hole and see. That's not quite enough. Right there. Woo! I think we could ask for better. Put our cutter key in. Yep, in a second.
That end off. Push it right back down.
Alright.
So it's not in the way.
Still haven't welded a piece on here, but it'll be fine. There we are.
All right.
We'll finish the other side, and then we'll start replacing suspension bolts. So Christopher is learning a very important life lesson right now. When you're good at something at your job, the boss makes you do it. So here he is doing the thing he's good at. We are getting ready to put the tires on the ground, and we are going to start swapping out our new suspension bolts. We've got shackles, equalizers, bolts, and nuts. We are going to replace everything that is rusted and needs to be replaced. Everything but the springs, basically, at this point. Okay, well, this was supposed to be a quick swap out some bolts, but we ran into some issues and we couldn't get the bolt out of one of these springs. So we decided to go get some new springs. So U-bolts came off really easy because those just went on. We'll clean those up again and we'll get the new springs on. It shouldn't take too long now. Most of it's all new, so we're gonna keep trucking away here. We are almost done with this part. All right, one side down, one side to go. This one should go quicker because we're not gonna take it apart and put it back together 2 times. We're gonna do it completely and be done.
Okay, so what he is doing right now is sometimes even the air-powered tools can't break this stuff loose. So he's using his manpower the giant breaker bar to break it loose. Break this bolt loose. This is a suspension bolt.
It's broke loose, but it's seized on there really good.
Yeah.
I think it's time for an air tool.
Yeah. Sometimes it's silent, sometimes it isn't. This is the setup off of the trailer. So you got your equalizer, your little links, and then the actual leaf springs.
All right, suspension's all done, bolted together. We are ready to roll down the road. The next step is going to be, we're going to do some electrical. Not complete electrical yet, but I want to get power back to the brakes so we can verify they're all working. So we are going to start some of our electrical project. That will be part 2, and we'll see how far we get in that. We might jump into something else, but for now that's the plan. The next video I'm hoping to do, we're going to do a water pump on the Razor. That's got to get done before we leave for Tennessee for our daddy-daughter trip. So sorry, Christopher, you're not going. Thanks for your support. Make sure and subscribe and throw us a like and a comment. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you in the next video.